The Guardians' offense explodes, closing in on the Yankees as Tanner Bibee battles through adversity.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and everyone. Welcome to take two of the show. After some mic issues, we are going for round two. Hopefully it's better than the first. This is Locked On Guardians. We cover your Cleveland Guardians from the majors to the minors, to the draft, and everything in between. If there's something involving the Guardians, we have you covered. It's one of the only daily podcasts on the Cleveland Guardians. I am Jeff Ellis, your host, and I have been the host of this podcast since the inception of baseball here at Locked On. For that, I was a national writer at Scout 24/7, focused on prospects in the draft. I want to thank everyone for joining us each and every day, for making this show your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, as well as giving a shout out to some of our everydayers. I want to thank Guard Fan DC for their iTunes review. And here's YouTube's random pull for the community spotlight. John Fagan, Jeffrey McNeil, Vlad D, High Sports, and William Stearns. That's who YouTube recommended in the little box that tells me, who's community engagement. Again, I want to thank you for joining us on a solo show. On today's show, we're going to have the return of Box Score Bingo, talk about a big win, and talk about how it's a win that has extra value, even if the opponent is sub 500. We're going to talk about the Braves and why this team is so far below 500, what their struggles are, where Cleveland can take advantage, and where they need to be wary. And then finally, we're going to talk about the minor leagues. Some players made some debuts. Some players had some great performances. Some guys are just standing out overall. But first, let's take a moment and give a shout out for 5 Hour Energy, who this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. So let's dive into this game. A game that got them half a game behind the Yankees in the wild card and almost gained ground on the Tigers. Tigers won in extra innings today, if you missed that. It ended up going to 11. And this was a game where no one's feeling good at the start, right? Like they were down 3-0 early. An error and, a lot of hits. You can't put it all on Tanner because the error, obviously. But, he also got those 3 runners on. The first run was on him. And after that, he really settled in. He did allow one more run, but overall, you're happy with that performance. We're going to talk about that more in a bit. But what really stood out to me when I pulled up the box score was just like everyone contributed in this game. You're going through and you're looking at what's happening throughout this game. Everyone is contributing. After that, the 3 runs, I love how we've seen in this series, this offense immediately come back and put up 3 runs to just, fire on all cylinders and to be that team. And that earlier in the year, it felt like 3 runs was impossible. And now we're seeing a situation where, they're just battling. This offense never gives up. And it's even the little things too. Like shout out to Gabby, who tied it on a sac fly and then gave him the lead on a sac fly. How many times earlier this year did we see them run around third base with no outs and he doesn't get home? Like that was a consistent issue for this team. And it's just nice to see even productive outs. I mean, there was not a single player in this lineup who didn't find a way to contribute, didn't find a way to help. We got to talk some history as well. José Ramírez, he got to, I believe he's at 977 for runs. He passed Kenny Lofton. That's 3rd all time. Can I do this from memory? I know he's 177 behind Earl Averill, who's number 1, and 102 behind Tris Speaker, I believe. So he's probably going to pass Tris like next year, and maybe it'll take 2 years to get past Earl Averill. But 3rd all time in runs. Like we had some, not only was it a big win, not only did they get range, but it was also another, climbing higher for Jose, getting a little bit closer to the top of the record books in another stat category. He had a huge game. We were talking a few weeks ago about some of his recent struggles. Well, guess what? That's over because Jose is Jose. There is a big contingent of fans who were upset by everything this offseason. And that's a lot of fans who are just upset by everything every offseason. But, trading known players the lack of increase of payroll, to each their own. I understand. Like I had a lot of people who were fans of mine who are not now because of those offseason trades and what I thought of them. But if you didn't like those trades, that's your business, right? I can't tell you how to feel. I'm not going to sit there and say like you should feel way other than you feel. But those trades happen. This is the team we have. For a lot of those people, when this team struggled, it was the perfect time to jump off the bandwagon, throw stones, and talk about, why this team wasn't working and why they were going to be bad and why they're going to be one of the worst teams in baseball and how they were going to, I don't know which listener it was who was putting how many games back of Detroit they were. That stopped a few weeks ago, and I don't know why. I'm kidding. But more importantly, I know those are the same ones now who are like, well, it doesn't matter because they're only facing bad teams. And they face good teams like the Mets. They're on a bad streak. Well, here's just the honest to goodness truth. Edward Cabrera, good team or not, is a really good pitcher. Edward Cabrera has 2 months this year where he only gave up 6 runs total for those entire months over 5 starts. He has the best rating on breaking balls in baseball. He's a really interesting pitcher because his number 1 pitches has changed in terms of thrown. His number 2 is his curveball, and his 3rd is his sinker. His fastball is not graded well, but it's still a 97-mile-an-hour sinker. This is a team that has not handled velocity well this year, has not handled changes this year. This is a bad matchup with a very good pitcher, and they give him a 5 spot, which stands out because he has given up 5 runs 2 other times this year. That is the most runs he has given up all year. They beat a very good pitcher. The Marlins have been a streaky up and down team. I think they have a pretty good offense. They faced a very good pitcher, and they roughed them up. They had a good game, regardless of the fact that the Marlins are a sub-500 team. This is a good win for them against a good pitcher, and that's sometimes how you have to look at it, right? Like, if you face the Pirates, they're a bad team, but if you beat Paul Skeens, that's an accomplishment. Beating Edward Cabrera was an accomplishment. It was a great job. So nice to see Kwan reach base 3 times. Hopefully he's getting out from his scuffling. I mean, like I said, you can go up and down this lineup. Hedges, after, the ball, for those who missed it, so there's a run across, runners on 2nd and 3rd. Gabby gets the ball, makes a nice throw to home. Hedges goes to do the tag. It's always the danger when you try to tag someone with their kick foot because force equals mass times acceleration. Ball gets kicked out of Hedges' glove, run scores, and another run scores because the ball gets away. And how does Hedges recover from that? Well, he throws out a runner to get the next out. Otto Lopez, the player who was safe at first on the fielder's choice, tries to steal second. Hedges gets him and then follows up with one of his best games offensively of the year. 2-hit game. Didn't even have a double as one of those hits. Yeah, he had a double in this one, his 3rd of the year. So Hedges stepped up, had a good offensive game. Tanner, when you're looking at what is going with Tanner, I mean, he almost went 6 innings, only 2 earned runs. There was a lot of guys on the bases, 9 base runners over 5 2/3. And one of the interesting things that really stood out for me in this one, those 5 hits, I believe all 5 of those hits came either off of his 4-seamer or his sinker. That was it. And yes, that is his number 1 and number 3 pitches in terms of how often they are used. Excuse me. I just don't want a cat to kick water onto the computer while I'm recording. But so yeah, there's a more likelihood of them being the pitches, but we've talked about before, like every pitch of his is above average by Stuff Plus, except for that 4-seam fastball. And I think that was 3 of the 5 hits. So when you're looking at Edward Cabrera, right? Like he is a pitcher who his 4-seam has velocity, but it's not a great pitch. For Tanner, I wonder if it's sequencing, if it's how the game gets drawn up. But his number 1 pitch is his 4-seam pitch. That's the pitch he uses the most, and that's how most pitchers operate. But it's not his best pitch, and it's the one guys are able to get to. And the sinker does feel like it's getting used a little heavily. We've talked about this before, and it was a great game. It was a solid performance overall. Most of those runs were not his fault. Let's be very honest. You'll take 5 2/3 of 2 earned runs. I just thought it was interesting that the things we talked about throughout this year in terms of like the fastball and the sinker were the only ones that they could hit throughout the game today. Just something to note. Cleveland wins half a game behind the Yankees. Another series win. You keep taking 2 out of 3. You're going to make the postseason. I made that statement earlier in the year. Continue to make it. We will come back after the break, and we got an Atlanta Braves series to discuss, dissect, and dive into all on today's Locked On Guardians. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days at the golf course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I've said it before, world's worst golfer. You don't want to golf with me unless you are just out there to see some terribleness. My experiences out there. Listen, I don't golf anymore for a reason. It's not a relaxing game for me, but to each their own. Right now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. The offer is valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order Transfusion 5-Hour Energy shots today. I want to thank you for all of our listeners, many of our everydayers, for again making us your first listen. And I do want to take the moment to say, the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, has you covered everywhere. Justin's having some fun this weekend, so I hope you're enjoying a old school show. The one thing I forgot to do in the first segment, I promised, is box score bingo. So let's quickly ring that up before we go to the Braves. This is something for old time listeners we're a big fan of. People occasionally ask for it. I do have a document over linked on Twitter where you can see the running tally for every single game this year of box score bingo. 3 stars in this one. Jose said he climbed in the record books, had 3 hits, scored 3 runs. Yeah, he gets the award. That is not the correct number next to his name, no. I wrote him down as that it is his 33rd. It is 48th player of the game, far and away the leader on the Guardians. I'm giving Gabriel Arias his 24th because he tied the game up on a sac fly. He gave him the lead on a sac fly. Productive hitting. Also reached base 2 other times. And had a few solid defensive plays. I'm giving Tanner the last one to battle through, to have that early adversity. Yes, that's the word I want. And it's been a struggle. He has not earned a player of the game since back game 94 against the Chicago White Sox. It has been a struggle since then. We're talking 94, 25 games ago, 5-man rotation. It's 5 times through the order. So for Tanner to step up, get the big win, again, 5 2/3. He almost went 6 innings with 2 earned runs. You're going to take that every day of the week. It's a solid offense. So excuse me, good on Tanner. The Guardians had 16 base runners in this game. That's good for an average of 5 runs. The opponents had 14. That's about 4.6 runs. And for the year, Cleveland, in terms of who has had more base runners in the game, Cleveland's record is 48, 61, and 10, because you can have ties when you're just talking about base runners. So there we go. Let me know if I got it right, wrong, who should have been one of the 3 stars below. So the Atlanta Braves, they are a team that is, for a lack of better word, beat up. They have so many players on the 60-day disabled list. Let's just start with that if you are not paying attention to the Braves at home. Grant Holmes, Ronaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, Spencer Schwallenbach, AJ Smith-Sawyer, Joe Jimenez from their bullpen. And then on the 10-day disabled list is Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna Jr. So offensively, what you have here is a team that is incredibly top-heavy. Jackson Profar has been great since he came off his steroid suspension. Matt Olson, solid and steady. Drake Baldwin has had his ups and downs. Right now, he's hot for them, has a chance of Rookie of the Year this year. Michael Harris is playing probably his best stretch of baseball through this year. And Marcell Ozuna, the reason they didn't trade him is here's the thing. If you have off-the-field issues and you can only play DH, you have to be a consistent performer. He had a really bad kind of, middle of the season. Good first month, middle not so great. He's been really effective since July 1st. I'll give him that. When I was looking at since July 1st data, Marcell Ozuna's been hitting. So the other side of it is Ozzie Albies, not so much. Vidal Brujan, who the Cubs cut, is currently, someone who's getting some reps in right field for them. They called up Nacho Alvarez to play third base. That hasn't gone particularly well. And Nick Allen, I really like Nick Allen in Oakland. He's an awesome defender. He's probably got the worst power in baseball. If you want to talk about who has the least power potential in baseball, friend of the show, Sidney Crosby, right? no, Sidney Crosby's the the all-time great hockey player. Lindsey Crosby of the Braves postcast said he doesn't have one barreled bat all year. He can't hit with enough authority to barrel a single bat. So he is just like, it's like a little leaguer at points. Still better than anything I could do. But an excellent defender, absolute whiz at shortstop. And they got Sean Murphy on the bench, who plays, more often than your typical backup catcher. That's why they carry 3 catchers. And Murphy's been about league average since July. Old friend alert, Sandy Leon is also on the bench there. So it is a top-heavy lineup. Don't walk the guys at the bottom. That is something we saw earlier this year. That is what this team needs to avoid. Take care of business at the bottom. Wary at the top. Take care of business at the bottom. I was going to try to make a mullet joke, but like I said, second time recording. I don't think I got the mental capacity to do it here. So that's how the lineup breaks down. Bullpen is okay. It's not grand. It's definitely gotten worse as the year has gone on, and they've dealt with injuries and other things. So it's an okay bullpen. But where Atlanta is an absolute mess is starting pitching. Since July 1st, they have the second worst WAR in baseball for starting pitchers. Since July 1st, the total WAR for their entire starting pitching staff is 0. The only reason they aren't the worst team in baseball is because the Colorado Rockies exist, and their WAR is a negative 0.3. One spot ahead of the Braves is the St. Louis Cardinals at a 0.3. So that's why when the Cardinals cut Eric Fetty, the Braves are like, hey, why not? You're ahead of us in the standings in terms of pitching effectiveness. If you're curious about FIP, we talked about that, fielding independent pitching, which is often a good indicator of like future success for starters. Again, second worst in baseball, 5.11 FIP. It's really bad for the Braves. Only team worse is the Rockies, and the team right ahead of them is the St. Louis Cardinals. I think the Rockies were like 5.98. Again, a little bit from memory there. But either way, I know it's Cardinals, Braves, Rockies. So Cleveland, we've talked about in the past, wear down pitchers, get to the bullpen. That can still be effective. It's an okay to good pen, but the big thing is they really have to knock these pitchers. Like the starting pitching is terrible for the Braves. There's just no way around it. If there's any Braves fans watching, let me know if I'm wrong. This is me doing a surface look and taking a lot of data and spending, an hour or so going over the Braves. But to me, it strikes me as pitching has been a big issue. We do have to talk about the one elephant in the room. They just released Carlos Carrasco. With as bad as they are, I can't see anyone else with his struggles this year claiming Carrasco. So this could be end of the line for him. It would have been nice to see Carrasco, and not just because, it would have been a good game for the Guardians offense, but a chance to see him perform in what could have been his final season. He'll likely end up in AAA for the Braves. So in this series, you have Eric Fetty versus Joey Cantillo. Fetty mentioned so this is the whole thing I've talked about many times in the show is you need 2 good years of data. A lot of guys have that 1-year pop, like Fetty, like Nolan Jones. 2 good years kind of establishes yourself. Fetty, it's the strikeouts are down, the walks are up, everything has gone backwards. He's probably going to have to sign a contract like as a camp invite next year to prove himself again, or maybe he goes back overseas to make money. But it's been a struggle for him, and I understand why the Braves are taking the gamble here. Then Hurston Waldrop, who's had good data in 2 starts, and he's another guy. It's interesting because he's still relying on his 4-seam fastball. I thought for sure when he got to the pros, teams wouldn't have him throw that as his number 1 pitch because he does not have a good fastball. It's a very straight pitch, and his secondaries are his strengths. So I'll be curious to see what Cleveland can do there. And then Joey Wentz is on his 3rd team this year, drafted by the Braves, traded, I can't remember in what form, to the Detroit back in the day. And he's bounced around a lot, but he's, been a solid, useful player for them. He's actually, by FIP, one of their better starters of late. So Wentz versus Logan Allen on Sunday. Cleveland throwing 2 lefties. Like all teams, the Braves are worse versus lefties, but they're a pretty solid team offensively overall. Big thing is their starters are bad. There's no way around it. Spencer Strider, they're missing, has not been his usual self. He's still coming back from surgery, trying to get himself all the way back. Bryce Elder is currently pitched today, Thursday, is also having a rough year. So, but for Cleveland here, they're facing a bad pitching staff. They got to take advantage of that. When we come back from the break, it'll be time to talk about some prospects, some debuts, some players who stand out, and a prospect who just keeps hitting everything that comes his way. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. When they don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that can bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I like touching spreadsheets, so I don't know about that part. My teacher retirement back in Ohio is with a terrible company that I can't seem to get my money out of. They make it really hard to get that money out. So if I want to look at all of my money all in one place, Monarch Money is the only way for me, because sometimes it's hard to navigate and you want one place where you can get all of your data and be able to look at everything. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONMLB. Again, I'm going to tell you, Locked On, your team every day. Thank you to everyone for joining us, commenting, watching. Sorry to our midnight fans, because this is recording too. I'm sure you can see the sweat on my faces. I'm sitting here with the light doing an hour straight of talking, but, apologize to those everydayers who like the midnight show. I don't know what went wrong. That's why this one is currently not lit up or plugged in. I'm going with my backup mic. It's been a weird week for mics, but thank you for sticking with us through some technical difficulties. Hope you're enjoying the show today. If you are, comment below anything. Just, what was your favorite moment in the Miami series? We'll go with that. So let's dive into some stats and some performance and some players in the minors. I want to give a shout out to Cam Sholke, who had his first pro win, I believe, on Wednesday night. He was a guy who was a day 3 pick, a reliever who, is getting his opportunity this year. It's just nice to see him get his first pro win. He's put in the time. I believe he's played with a few other guys now in the minors with this team. I think Cal Steven was his teammate in college. So good for Cam for that performance. Just deciding what I want to go through. Let's talk Mitch McCausland. So I'm not sure if this is his debut. I think it might have been. We heard a lot of good things after they drafted McCausland. There's a lot of positives. He's a reliever, but he threw 2 innings on Thursday night and no base runners, 2 innings, 5 strikeouts. So 5 out of 6 outs game versus the strikeout. Might be a bit of answer level. It is only 1 outing, but boy, that was quite the debut performance. Jacob Cozart on the move up to AA had 2 hits and a double tonight. That was something that stood out. And then we've had a few questions about how was it going with Alfonso and Rosario in AA. It's a big transition. And it's going very, very hard for him. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how he progresses. I have faith in the kid. You're not going to jump after, a very short sample. It's every level is hard. Different players take different amounts of time and patience to adjust to those levels. So for me, when I'm looking at it in the performance, it's just going to be, sometimes it's also good just to see how a player deals with adversity like this. Like, this was his best year of his career. He's probably feeling as good as he has ever felt as a player. And then this happened. And, now we get to see how he's going to deal with and overcome, some struggles. He's facing a different level of pitcher, and it's showing right now. Other players down here, Bennett Thompson just continues to get on base. Doesn't appear to matter what level he's at. The former Oregon catcher, I want to say, had another hit today. Just keeps doing a lot of nice things for wherever he's playing and gets those opportunities. And then I want to talk about 2 more players for the rest of the time. First one is Jacob Zibin. So Jacob Zibin for a time was the highest bonus signing this team ever gave to a 10th round pick. That was passed by Chase Mobley in 2024. Your top 5 all time. So in 2024, $1.8 million to Chase Mobley. In 2022, $1.2 million to Jacob Zibin. In 2010, $500,000 to Tyler Holt. In 2021, $175,000 to Franco Alamon. And in 2025, I got 2 more. 2025, $150,000 to Harrison Bodendorf. And then in 2006, $150,000 to Paulo Espino. So you can see it's definitely shot up over these past few years. And the 10th round is the cursed round. Let's be honest. They have a negative value in the 10th round in terms of the draft. And if you pull out the players who were undrafted or were unsigned, they still have a negative value. So it doesn't matter however you break it down, because the highest WAR value in the history of the 10th round is Peter Redfern in 1972, who was undrafted. He was a high school kid. He ended up with 1.5 WAR in 170 games. So yeah, not exactly. Paulo Espino is the highest WAR value in the 10th round. It's like, well, it's just where that round is. Heck, in the 9th round, you've got Luke Scott, one of the highest WAR outfielders in the history of the org. Good old number 99, Dustin Moore. Vic Alberry had almost 2 WAR. And over on the other side of it, in the 11th round, they have found, Tom Lampkin, Kelly Stinnett, though they didn't sign him, but I believe they didn't sign him later. Matt Langwell. So this one isn't quite as strong as I'm going down through the list. Adam Plutko. But you just don't have a lot of even guys who stuck around a long time in this 10th round list. Samad Taylor has a chance to maybe play the most games of anyone. He's trying to chase down Tyler Holt for that. So I say all of this because Jacob Zibin was cursed with bad health. After being drafted in 2022, he didn't appear with a non complex league team until this year. And he's finally healthy. And he's 6'4", 218 pounds is a listing. Canadian kid who then went to the TNXL Academy. And this year, 0-5. Remember, wins and losses definitely don't matter at that level. But at Lynchburg, he's nearly 2 years young for the level. League average. In those 14 starts, he's up now 15 starts. He's at 41.1 innings. He's slowly building up. They're being patient with him, but we're seeing those solid improvements. In this past game that he threw Thursday night, 4 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 4 Ks. That's a nice performance for a young kid who is slowly getting things back together, getting things on track. Kind of a sleeper prospect to check out down there in Lynchburg, a player who has the size, who they liked and gave second round money to. They paid him to get him to the 10th round. Live arm, young for the class. The organization has not done a good job developing prep arms. Since CC Sabathia, I think Tristan McKenzie is the best success story, and I think Sam Henches is number 2. People always bring up Jason Davis. He was a college arm. Those 2 guys stand out. So, which is interesting because they're so good at development of college guys or guys they trade for from other orgs. You would think they'd be good with prep arms because it's a mold, a ball of clay they can mold. Hasn't worked so far. Maybe it will with Zibin. Maybe it'll work with Braylon Dowdy, who we talked about. Things look like they're turning around, and Zibin's another kind of under the radar arm, a fun guy to check out who is, hasn't had his opportunity. This is his 3rd year in the system, and he's finally on the field. It was an interesting game. So I couldn't help but look at that. And then I also want to talk about Juneiker Caceres. So Juneiker Caceres is on his promotion to Lynchburg, just hasn't slowed down. Like there's no way around it. Like he is just absolutely destroying baseballs right now with that Lynchburg team. And he's just so young. Like he is 17. I think he just turned 18, honestly. I think he's listed at 17, but I think he turned 18. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's going to turn 18. Happy birthday, Juneiker Caceres. He turns 18 the day of the podcast. So he's a 17-year-old kid in Lynchburg with an OPS over 1,000. It's been 11 games. He's 12 games, not because this I'm sure isn't for today. And he just keeps hitting the ball. And it's a small sample size, and there can be adaptation, there can be figuring it out. But we've seen other players kind of get here. Guys like Welbin Francisco, who is a very well thought of prospect who's got a 650 OPS down there. And to see Juneiker kind of step in has made him a fun player to watch. And not every prospect, we don't have to immediately shoot him up a list, even though, yeah, he's going to move up lists. We don't have to put all our hopes in everything. Sometimes you can just enjoy a crazy performance. I always like to tell the story that I have this very fond memory of every Sunday in the Akron Beacon Journal getting out the minor league stats and sitting down with my dad as I started pointing out this Colin guy. I'm like, look how low, he's got a sub-2 ERA and he's got all these strikeouts. And every day I'd bring him Colin, or every day, every weekend, every Sunday, and we talk about him, and then we followed him up to, eventually we found his name was Cologne. But hey, it was a rite of passage watching these numbers and looking at how they go. And sometimes it's just fun to see a guy like this, that young, at that level, performing at such a high point. again, it's a small sample size. You know, he's going to come back to earth. He's not probably going to be able to keep up that level of performance. But he's an interesting young kid. And a lot of their Latin players, unfortunately, we've seen them kind of get to this level and maybe not stand out. You know, we were really big on Luis Morejo. He's struggling to hit 200 this year. Still like the skills. Sometimes it takes guys longer. Development isn't linear. But let's also take a moment and celebrate a guy like Juneiker, who's having such a fun debut, who's putting up such fun numbers, who's another name to watch. You know, we talked about all the promotions throughout and the players that are on that roster at the various levels. And, you know, with some of the new additions, it's fun to look at the draft guys, but there's still a lot of fun young players to check out. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you can't tell I'm starting to lose my voice here a bit at the end, but I appreciate all of you for joining me on today's show. I want to thank you to all of our everydayers everywhere who join in, take part, comment, and have fun. I really do appreciate our growth over the last month. That's what makes the job fun, is the interactions and seeing this show continue to grow from something that I was lucky to get 100 downloads a day to something that now gets a few thousand. So thank you for being part of the Locked On Guardians team. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend. Hopefully Justin will be back on Sunday talking about a Guardians sweep, or at least a Guardians series win. But either way, make sure to join us. We'll be here. Thank you. And go Guardians, go.